Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome in, everybody, to another Sports Daily, a Friday, a football Friday, almost all the way a football Friday, but it is a high school football Friday. It is a college football Friday, and we are looking forward to it, getting ready for it. We'll have a little high school football talk with executive producer of Catch a Kansas, Matt Henderson. That's coming up in hour number 2. We'll also talk a little K-State football with Wyatt Thompson coming up a little bit later. In the next segment, actually, as we get a full official preview of K-State. Looking forward to that as well. KU, of course, plays tonight. Tommy, we have a little news. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here. We have a little news on KU. You have secured us an insider for KU coming up here this fall and maybe even beyond.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We're going to debut that on Monday. So a little bit of a recap of the Missouri State game for KU, which will be tonight inside Memorial Stadium. So we're going to be talking to Shreyas Ladha, who is the KU beat writer, football and basketball for the Kansas City Star. Weekly visits with him will begin Monday morning.
And we will have our Chiefs visits, we think, back with Dan Israel as well, starting next week. So we have all kinds of good stuff coming for you this fall here on Sports Daily. Glad to be able to do it. Glad to be here with you. The IHOP hotline is open today for you, 869-1240. It's brought to you by IHOP, where guests can enjoy 4 new sweet and savory biscuit options. Forgive my voice here. I don't know how it's going to hold up, but it's trying very hard.
How you feeling this morning?
What's that?
How you feeling this morning?
You know, I've had this stupid dang cold here for most of the week now, and it just sort of migrates from like one area to the other. So if you're watching on the video stream, sorry about that, because it's a little rough looking, and now it's starting to sound a little rough too, because it's migrated its way to my throat. But it's fine. We'll get there. I don't know. I mean, it's football season. You know, you just power through, and I'm excited about it because we had college football last night. We had Utah get a big win. We had Central Florida get a big win. Central Florida is a member of the Big 12 now. Utah will be soon. So a couple of nice things happening in college football. Matt Rule does not get it done in Nebraska. And remember when I said you couldn't strap me to a chair to watch Minnesota, Nebraska, Tommy? You made fun of me. Do you not agree with me now? That 13-10 barn burner Big Ten classic?
I mean, it was a classic comeback from Minnesota. I mean, they were able to, to make it work and get the win. So
a classic comeback where they needed one score because it was 7-3 or whatever it was.
Hey, let's be honest though. I mean, we're in week number 1 of the college football season, so expectations are lower right now. If that was a game that happened in like November or December, it would be an absolute snooze fest. But no, I think that was what I wanted to see. I think in opening week football.
Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see 13-10. Who wants to see 13-10? And it's not like it was 13-10 because you've got just these amazing, defensive juggernauts. This isn't Alabama, LSU that year. This is 13-10 because it's classic, boring, dry, vanilla Big Ten football, which doesn't happen at the very top of the Big Ten, but it happens almost everywhere else in the Big Ten. And
I just like the fact that, you've got Matt Rule, who is debuting in Nebraska, a lot of eyeballs on that. And I think that you and I were actually talking last night about expectations for Nebraska. And I'm like, well, the expectation is to win a national championship every single year. That's the way it is with Nebraska football. I think it's going to take a little while for Matt Rule to kind of get this thing going. And, the one thing that the fan base for the Cornhuskers that they don't really have a whole lot of is patience. So we'll see what kind of patience they've got with Matt Rule.
Can't blame them. They've been told to be patient now for 20 years. So can't blame them. Look, if a university can put 92,000 people in a stadium for a volleyball game, it's hard to imagine Nebraska shouldn't be competitive at the highest level because the enthusiasm for the university is clearly there. But hey, here's where we sit now. And again, I think I was right. I'm pretty glad I didn't waste any time on that game. Actually, I took Nebraska +7, so that was great. I took Utah. That was great. And then because I told you I'm going to get, made fun of for this. I threw in a parlay, tried to take that UCF under, which didn't hit. And, that's a nice opening to the betting weekend to hit 2 out of 3 and have nothing to show for it.
Hey, you gave me a hard time yesterday for saying that I was going to be a little bit more reserved and a little bit more reasonable in my bets this year. The only bet that I placed was Utah to cover. And I was nervous, after the whole news with Cam Rising, but they were able to, get a 13-point victory. And so I was able to cash out on that. But I don't know. As much as parlays are fun, I'm just not sure that I've got the stomach for them right now. Maybe when we get into the season a little bit more, I'll jump into that world. But right now, I'm perfectly fine with individual bets.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. We'll see if I, for the first time in my life, become disciplined. I highly, highly doubt it. I did pretty good with that in the NFL, but then I also have to, parlay them together. We'll be talking betting throughout the fall as well, too, here on the show. A little breaking news off the top here. The ACC has officially, I guess, voted in. North Carolina State flipped. So ACC gets the vote to add in Cal, Stanford, and SMU. Not surprising. I never understood why NC State was against this to begin with, because NC State's not getting poached, I don't think. So, for everybody else in the ACC, ultimately, when Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina leave, this will make the league better and stronger and more apt to survive. So I don't know why it took this long. They'll figure out the travel stuff. Again, the travel burden falls on, Cal and Stanford to figure out more than it does the ACC. So that's the next step, pretty much the death of the Pac-12 if it wasn't already there, and we move on. And now we would see, Tommy, I would imagine, if there's interest in adding Washington State and Oregon State to the AAC, some more momentum to do that, because now those two schools know it's official. The Pac-12 is dead.
Yeah, a couple of notes about this. So first off, Stanford, the majority of their officials, like in the athletic department, they're in Hawaii right now because Stanford football plays at Hawaii tonight. So this news broke this morning, but it's like middle of the night right now in Hawaii. So I'm not sure that I'm sure like the athletic director and coaches and all that know, but I don't know how many people associated with Stanford actually know about this news yet. They will when they wake up here in a couple of hours. The other thing that I find really interesting, and Ross Dellinger is reporting this, that, and we had never thought about this or talked about this, at least I hadn't. I don't know if you had, but part of the appeal, it looks like, for SMU joining the ACC is the fact that they are sort of centrally located and can be a hub for Olympic sports. So one of the deals in this expansion is that Eastern members and the two new Western members would meet in Dallas to conduct competition in Olympic sports. SMU's location provides a hub to reduce travel costs. So that's one of the elements of this expansion. And I wondered, and I think we both had a little bit, like, what's the appeal for the ACC to bring in SMU? And obviously them not making any money right away is part of it. But I also didn't think about the fact that they provide kind of a middle ground between Stanford and Cal, and then the other teams on the East Coast. So that's interesting. And that's, I think, maybe a way that they're trying to strategize to figure out a way to cut down those travel costs.
Well, it certainly helps to Cal and Stanford not have to travel every time, right? You get to mix in a trip to SMU. And again, it will get sorted out, and you sort of have to just deal with those details as they come. But the reality of it is you had to do something, because you can, and I applaud them for this. After you've seen it happen to the Big 12, and then you saw it happen to the Pac-12, it's going to happen to you. Like, it is. Don't be naive. Don't mess around with this stuff. If you have an opportunity to get just even a little bit stronger, you get a little bit stronger, because the alternative is what is the fate of the Pac-12, right? And so, this makes it less likely probably for the Big 12 to come in ready to poach when the time comes. And it may be a long time. That's the part about the ACC that's a little trickier, is it could all last a really long time. But those teams are going to figure out how to get out. I mean, they're not going to go all the way through the end of that media deal, I don't think. Just getting warmed up here on Sports Daily. We've got Pentatonics tickets to give away today. We've got HTO tickets to give, HTO T to give away today. Also some Wind Surge vouchers as the home dates are running out for the Wind Surge. We'll do all that on the show today. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, jumps in on Sports Daily as we'll get a final look ahead to the game tomorrow night for K-State, which you'll hear, of course, here on KFH. Albracht and Castor on a Friday. We'll be right back.
all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
Your new radio home for K-State Athletics, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. It's that time, Sports Daily, getting all the inside information on Kansas State. Let's go now to the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson.
And welcome back in. It is a game week here on Sports Daily for K-State, for KU. But Wyatt, for K-State, we're finally here. A chance to repeat on last year. How's it feeling up in Manhattan right now?
You know what? Everybody is so excited. It's hard to put into its proper context, to be honest about it. They've been talking about it for so long. I was visiting with some of the coaches yesterday, and you can get the sense that they're pretty anxious too. I just ran into Taylor Portier from Bishop Miege High School in Kansas City a few minutes ago. And of course, you know, he's had an ACL tear in two different legs over the last 2 years. And he may be the most pumped up guy out there. So it's time to go. And I can't wait for the guys.
Wyatt, you know, obviously starting with the opponent of Southeast Missouri, you know, it's not an opponent. I know that they clearly have had, you know, a lot of talent in their program at the level of football that they play in. How in the world, like in an opening game like this, does the team and the coaching staff, how do you approach an opponent kind of like SEMO?
You know what? That's a pretty darn good question, because I think a lot of people maybe undervalue that level of football. You know, in talking to Coach Kleiman this week, you know, he spent a lot of time at the FCS level, and he has said to me since I first met the guy that the top 15 programs or so at the FCS level, more times than not, can compete with most. I think what happens is over the course of a 60-minute game, when you've got 85 scholarship players at K-State's level, as opposed to 63 for SEMO, it takes its toll, at least generally speaking. But this team is one that's ranked 11th in one poll and 12th in another. They're experienced. They're well coached. They have a winning culture. They have playmaking kind of guys in a lot of different positions. I think you respect all of that. And yet, you do have to guard a little bit about, I mean, you know how sports is, guys. You know, it's different if you're playing, no disrespect to anybody at all, but, you know, if you're playing, say, the Yankees as opposed to Seattle, right? I mean, most people are going to think, oh boy, it's the Yankees. That's just right. Kind of the way it works. So you have to guard against that a little bit. I hope you understand what I mean there, but I think K-State's clearly the better team, and yet you better respect this bunch. And if you don't, they're going to make a game of it.
Of all the things, Wyatt, that we have talked about throughout the entire offseason and all the storylines, as you watch this first game, what is it, do you think that, like, what do you want to see from this team that would alleviate any area of concern you might have coming into the season?
I love that question too. And I think it's pretty easy to answer. And I say that because when you look at Kansas State football in 2023, you see a defending champion in the league. You see a returning starting quarterback. You see 15 starters returning and a lot of quality football players. What you may not necessarily see is a team that is going to lean on a lot, and let me emphasize that again, a lot of very young and inexperienced players. And I think that's the biggest thing for the coaches and what I'll be watching here in game one. I used an example a couple of times this week. You know, K-State, I've said for quite a while that they probably have as much depth at linebacker right now than they've had in quite some time. But you're going to see a couple of guys in that game tomorrow night. One, Toby Osensami really hasn't played much as a redshirt freshman, and Asa Newsom hasn't. And actually, I could put Austin Romaine in there too. Those guys haven't played at all. It's different when the lights are on. You know, you can go through all kinds of, 24-period practices or 18-period practices and, work inside and outside, indoors, stadium, whatever. But it's different when the lights are on and everybody's watching, including the television cameras. I think most of those kids are excited and will perform well, but you got to get them through that. I would use Avery Johnson as another example. I don't think the coaches know exactly how they want to do this or the circumstance that will make them put, if they go deeper than Will Howard, Jake Rubley in the game as opposed to, Avery Johnson. And those are kind of some of the things that they're going to have to work out here in week 1 too.
Wyatt, we've talked a lot about the offense behind Will Howard and what we're expecting out of him and the quarterback play. And I know last week I asked you about the running back position and the time split there, between those two guys running the football for Kansas State. But as far as wide receivers are concerned, I know that Phillip Brooks, there's going to be an expectation for him to step up more, to have, kind of more of a, dominant number one pass catcher type play this season, but also Keegan Johnson transferring in. I think that, clearly provides a big boost for the passing game for Kansas State. What are you expecting from the wide receivers, and how do you anticipate the splits coming out as far as who's going to be catching the football and how that's all going to be, the best targets for Will Howard?
Well, I would say this. I kind of was looking at some numbers yesterday, putting some final touches on my flip charts for the broadcast, and it's hard not to notice this. K-State in their, the depth chart that was released to the media on Monday lists 9 receivers in that 2-deep grouping, okay, which is 2 wides and a slot receiver. 176 catches with those 9 guys. 129 of those from Phillip Brooks.
Wow.
You get the point. There are guys in that area that are going to have to prove themselves. I think they know what they have in Keegan, though, because he's played some. I think you could even say that for Jaden Jackson and maybe to a lesser degree an RJ Garcia. But there are so many other guys that I think they want to see. I guess I'd also throw Seth Porter in there, but there are guys like Erwin Nash as an example, maybe a Ty Bowman, somebody like an Xavier Lloyd. Those guys need to be those 4th, 5th, and 6th guys and help you. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to go out and get 3 or 4 catches a week, but maybe one here and there to augment those top 3 or 4 other guys. I think that's the biggest thing. I will tell you, without a doubt in my mind, the coaches really believe that this is RJ Garcia's time and that he will be impactful for this team. And I think with Keegan and with Phillip, if he can do that, along with Ben Sennett and a few others, they should be pretty solid. But you've got to have those 4, 5, and 6 wide guys help you some.
I want to jump back. Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats here. You'll hear his call of K-State tomorrow evening, right here on KFH, your home of Wildcat athletics this fall and winter and for the future. You mentioned Toby Osunsomni, and he is an incredible athlete we watched here in Wichita East. I remember when he was in high school, it was just, athletically he stood out. We didn't know what to expect from him. I'm interested that you're mentioning him by name. Is he, what kind of football player has he developed into? Because the raw skills jump off the charts at you. How much expectation is there for him? Because he's going to be young if he plays a significant role this year.
Yeah, it's a really good subject from my perspective, because you said it perfectly too. He jumps out at you with his frame and his motor, right? I mean, I think everybody sees that part. I think in addition to that, what the coaches are most excited about is when you combine that with the reps that he's gotten over the last, I'll say, year and a half-ish. They know that this kid is very, very capable of being a difference-making kind of guy at Big 12 level football. And that's a mouthful, no doubt. You got to go out and do it and be consistent with it. And I think that's one area where, if you talk to Coach Stannard, the linebackers position coach, he will tell you Toby's made a lot of progression there with just being consistent day in and day out with practice. And that's when those guys start to see things happening on the field, when it starts to slow down for them and they've gotten enough reps that it just kind of becomes natural, as opposed to just thinking. You still have to think, but it's more about being reactionary once you know what you're doing. And Toby's getting closer there.
Wyatt, I asked Tim Fitzgerald this question yesterday, and I want to get your perspective on it as the voice of the Wildcats. Cooper Beebe, we know how incredible of an athlete he is and how great of a representative for Kansas State he's been. This is a kid, from my perspective, that I feel like him returning to the Wildcats this season, it was a legacy decision for him, wanting to, continue to cement that legacy as one of the greatest Wildcats to ever put on a uniform for the university. Is that the way that you view Cooper Beebe? And obviously we know that he's more than likely going to have a really successful professional career in football. But what do you see from him, not just as a player, but just as a representative of the university?
100% what you're saying. You're right on task. And I think Cooper does tick a little bit different that way. I thought it was really cool when I heard him say that in a media setting for the first time. He had said it to me out on the Catbacker tour before he probably really said it publicly, or at least that's my feel of it. But I know he's talked to his offensive line mates about it, and I think that and his brother being here was the main reason he wanted to come back. He makes no secret to the fact that he wants to be known as one of the best to play here, and he's already been an All-American, and I think he will be again if he stays healthy. He's such a versatile guy. There's no reason he couldn't do that, but I think he's driven by it. But even in the bigger scheme of things, I think he and this team is motivated by, can we do something nobody else has done, meaning winning a league title back-to-back? I think that drives him too. So he is pretty unique in his thought processes to go along with immense talent, and just a terrific young man.
Wyatt, we got UCF off to a good start for the Big 12 this year. We saw future Big 12, team Utah get a big win last night. I wonder how excited you are for these changes that are coming this year, and then, in the next year after that, to what the Big 12 is going to be in the future. This should be as fun, I would think, from our perspective and in what we all do for a living. This should be the best the league's ever been, even without Texas and Oklahoma, don't you think? At least top to bottom. I mean, this is going to be a blast.
Yeah, absolutely true. And you know what? Let's be honest on both sides of this coin. I think what we're going through right now in major college athletics with all of this conference jumping, I guess I'll call it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. I think we're losing some really great rivalries and history games, but it is what it is, and you have to roll with the times and those kinds of things. It doesn't make any sense that Stanford's going to be in the ACC, right? But does it really make any more sense that West Virginia is in the Big 12 or Arizona? No, probably not. But with all of that said, it's hard to not look down the road this year and next and not think that the league is stronger and better. And I think it will be. When you look at all of those teams coming in, and you mentioned UCF, I think they're probably far, I guess time will tell, but I think they're closer to being, Big 12 competitive than most might perceive them to be. They're very well coached. They're very athletic. And they shined last night, and it just wasn't their first line guys. They had some second grouping players that on that stage for the first time were pretty darn good too. And that's kind of what Big 12 teams do. So I think the league is on good footing, and I'm excited about the future and the strength of the league, but it is going to be, I'm going to miss those, everybody plays everybody in football and the round robin in basketball. I think all of the fans will miss that too.
Yeah, we will. I think fans adjust quicker than probably we fear when these things first happen. Okay, so we've got, this will be the first KFH call you guys have here, so we're excited about that. I've got, pregame coverage listed here 2 hours before kickoff. So what can K-State fans expect here as we get things going on KFH in that pregame show? What do you guys have on the broadcast? What can we expect?
Well, I appreciate you asking that. And as I said last week, I'm thrilled to have KFH as part of our network. And what they can expect in that 2 hours is they're going to hear from our athletic director, Gene Taylor. They're going to hear from Chris Kleiman. They're going to hear from both coordinators. They're going to hear from a couple of players. talk about the Big 12, those kinds of things. And I think it's just kind of a build-up process over that 2 hours to 6:02 tomorrow night, and which is what we've all been waiting for. So hopefully it will be fast-moving and informative, and I hope everybody. We're going to have a great crowd here. The student turnout will be off the charts, and I think we're pretty much been ruled a sellout for these first couple of 2 or 3 games. So it's going to be really, really fun, guys.
It's going to be fun. You've got 2 hours of pregame coverage before kickoff at 6 o'clock. Wyatt will be back again next week. We'll break down SEMO. We'll look ahead to Troy. Can't wait for it. Appreciate your visits and looking forward to them each and every Friday here on Sports Daily.
I enjoyed the opportunity, guys. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Sounds good. There goes Wyatt Thompson, voice of the K-State Wildcats, here with us on Sports Daily every Friday this fall as he'll preview the Cats and get us ready for Saturdays, as you'll hear K-State Athletics right here on KFH. Let's take a quick break, Tommy. On the way out, let's give something away. Let's do some HTO iced tea here. These cards, we'll give away 2 free tea cards. Be good for you at either the Wichita West location, the Wichita East location, or coming soon in Derby. So first caller to the IHOP hotline there, 869-1240. We'll get a couple of free iced teas on us here at Sports Daily. Time and I'll be back with more right after this. Hey, welcome back in here to Sports Daily, everybody. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you on this Friday edition. Glad to be here with you. Congratulations, Daniel, for winning some HTO with us. Our thanks to Wyatt Thompson for stopping by to chat a little K-State football. All right, Jason asks us here about Tommy's outfit for the draft. Did
God.
you do a good job? I will tell you with 100% honesty, I have no idea what Tommy was wearing for the draft last night, and I was sitting right next to him.
I told my wife that. I said, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to take a look at it. Like, nothing is going to happen. And I mean, you're proof of that.
I did. I mean, maybe you had like a gray shirt or something.
I mean, I was wearing a Chiefs shirt. It had the Chiefs logo on it.
Yeah.
I was wearing a hat. I mean, it was fine. I thought I looked perfectly fine. I thought I looked perfectly fine before she picked out new clothes for me, but that's not up to me. That's
Well, you
not
just
my
tell
decision.
her you blended right in with the crowd and you didn't stand out. That's what you tell her. Right.
And you were, on the other hand, I know exactly what you were wearing because you did stand out. You were wearing a Cowboys Hawaiian shirt. And that is a little bit more bold, does stand out a little bit more.
Yeah. You gotta, you're walking into a crowd. And for me, it's a crowd full of new people. You got to make a statement right there out of the gates, right? Like, hey, remember this shirt. It's the one that's going to kick your tail all year long.
I don't know if that's a positive statement you were trying to make or not, but it was certainly a statement one way or another.
It's a statement. Doesn't matter. Positive or negative. Doesn't matter. So appreciate the question, Jason. It was a good draft. It was, I think I did fine.
It was a weird draft. There were a lot of quarterbacks that went really, really early, which I was not prepared for.
Well,
I don't
you
know
can
if you were
start
prepared
two
for that,
of them. I think that's the thing. You've been in that league before. I have not, so I'm new to it. But if you're telling me I can start two quarterbacks, I'm going to try and get two pretty good ones. So we'll see how it all works out. We're big fantasy football guys. If you ever have any questions, need a little help with your fantasy football team, you got drafts coming up, you can fire it at us. We're not just like I'm a pretty big consumer of it. So, I definitely feel capable if you have questions of trying to help you out. We can always do that. 869-1240. We'll get to some of our favorite bets of the weekend in just a little bit. Tommy, it's hard to find lines really for KU and K-State this weekend because they play FCS teams. We've been talking K-State there with Wyatt Thompson. Let's talk about KU for a minute. I don't really know what to. I honestly think that there's more to see out of K-State's opener than there is KU's because I don't feel like KU has quite as many questions. And it's not like I only say that like when I say questions, right? Like the things that we've talked about with K-State that we want to see. With KU, we sort of know what to expect. It's just, at the top of the list probably is how healthy is Jalen Daniels? Is there improvement from last year? And does that equate to more wins? I mean, I think that we will see KU improve, but like, as we talk about like top storylines coming in, I don't think I have quite as many for KU as I do for K-State mostly because K-State sent 4 dudes to the NFL, but like, I think things are pretty much set with KU.
The biggest thing with the Jayhawks is keeping the momentum going from last season. I mean, that's really, truly it. And really, I say that because they're returning so much production from a year ago. And of course, the number one storyline is how healthy and effective is Jalen Daniels going to be in week number 1? And how much leeway does Jalen Daniels have in this game tonight against Missouri State? Or will we see, Daniels play some and then them give him a break depending on what the lead is at, and will Jason Bean come in and what will that look like? So that's got to be the number one storyline, I think, going into this game. But overall, just for the season, I mean, I think we all can agree that, at least my belief is that the Jayhawks were ahead of schedule last year. And so I don't know how realistic it is to think that they will continue to be ahead of schedule this year, but I think maintaining where they are at right now is the most important thing.
Well, I mean, I would love to see them. I'll tell you what I'd love to see. I'd love to see them come in and just boat race Missouri State. I think that would feel good, right? Like no worries, no struggles, just come in and absolutely beat the doors off of them. I don't know this for sure, but from what I've heard and can gather, right, SEMO is probably a little better than Missouri State, I think.
Yeah.
I am seeing a line now. This is interesting because I wasn't seeing this until today. I'm seeing a line for KU today, probably because they play today. So maybe we will get one for K-State tomorrow. But 20.5 is the line for Kansas. See, like, that's one where I think, Tommy, like, I'd like to see them cover that number for sure. Like, I would absolutely want to see KU win this game by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think that I hadn't seen that. So you telling me that right now, that's the first I've heard that. And my gut reaction right off the bat tells me that not only should they cover that, I think they will cover that. Knowing just the offensive production that this Jayhawk squad had last year and should have this year, I don't think that they should have a whole lot of issues covering that against Missouri State. That being said, we know the struggles that the Jayhawks had defensively last season. And I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on what Missouri State has and what they do. But, really the Achilles heel, I think, has been last season for the Jayhawks, the defense. So that's going to be, I think, the only question mark. But I don't have a whole lot of hesitation. Like I'm looking at that line right now. I think I'm going to hammer the Jayhawks to cover that.
Yeah, and I don't, that's a line I'm seeing at CBS Sports. So we'll see if if like BetMGM gets on that line or not. It's always a little tricky when it's FCS. I mean, the danger is if Jalen Daniels doesn't play the whole game, right? Like, what if they switch off to Jason Bean? You'd like to see him cover either way, but if Daniels is really hurt and they're in control early, they may just, put him on ice a little bit, let him get fully healthy and continue to do it. But I'm with you. I think for KU, the biggest things early this year are just seeing momentum continue, not just on the field either, off the field too. Like, is the fan momentum, there like it was last year when they were selling out games? Is there that sort of enthusiasm again here early, like it was a year ago? We know it's there in Manhattan. We know it's going to be. They're basically sold out for the whole year. But can KU keep that momentum going? Not just Lance Leipold's job, right? But everybody else's to get the buzz and keep the buzz. And we've seen the new locker room for KU and all of that stuff. Right. It all goes hand in hand when you're in the middle of, because let's be honest, Tommy, it's not just a rebuild on the field. It's like a total rebuild across the board when it comes to KU football.
It is. And all of this stuff is intertwined. I mean, the announcement of the renovation of Memorial Stadium and building the new stadium and the Gateway District and the new locker rooms and all the facilities and all of that. I mean, this is absolutely the Jayhawks athletic department striking while the iron is hot. I mean, they were able to capitalize on the early season success last year that kind of caught the college football world by storm, and, able to get Lance Leipold locked in long-term and be able to get the fan base and the donor base excited and motivated for the future of KU football. It's been a long time since you've had that entire KU community excited for the future of the program. And so in the minds, I'm sure, of Travis Goff, the athletic director, and Lance Leipold, the head coach, it's like, why wait on doing any of this stuff, whether it's new locker rooms, new stadium, whatever? Let's jump on it right now, because there's no guarantee that, all of this stuff is going to last. The momentum is going to last. And I think that they've got the opportunity to continue on the foundation that they've built. But I'm really curious about the schedule this season, and when it's all said and done, what the Jayhawks record is going to be. I think that one thing that is going to be extremely important for KU football this year is to get bowl eligible as early as they can. Like, I don't want to say that it's going to be a disappointment for them if you're down to the final game of the regular season and you're battling for a bowl spot or not. But if they can get bowl eligibility locked up with 2 or 3 games to go, I think at that point, that's going to allow the program and the fan base to kind of take another sigh of relief and say, okay, we're continuing on the right track.
I've heard that their under win total is one of the most popular bets of the year. Their schedules. I've heard that. Sorry about that. I had my microphone. I had my cough button muted there. It sounds like their under bet is one of the more popular bets this year, and it's a product of the schedule. There you can, if you pencil them in for wins against Missouri State, are you penciling them in for sure in any other game that they'll play? Hosting Illinois, going to Nevada out of the league, and then the rest are Big 12 games. So I get, 6 wins, Tommy, is going to be tough. And that's that again, like, I don't know what that means on the field. I don't think that that's going to hold anything back, right? Like, if the win total regresses this year, I don't think that hurts the on the field momentum that Lance Leipold is building at all, because they're upgrading facilities. They're doing all the things he needs them to do to be competitive, right? And obviously last year they were ahead of schedule and everything went great and it was perfect. Those pendulums usually swing back and forth. If everything went perfect last year outside of Jalen Daniels getting hurt late, like it leads you to believe that may not happen this year. So I don't know. That's what I want to see when I say, like, off the field momentum. Like, what if they aren't winning all these games? What if they aren't bowl eligible? Are they still going to be selling out games? Are people still excited about that? You know more about it, than I do, growing up with that program and going to games. I don't know what to expect in that world. I don't know if they don't get out to the same sort of start they were on last year. If that momentum continues, I certainly hope that it does.
They don't need to be on that same kind of track this season as they were last year. Like, they don't need to win the first 5 or 6 games of the year like they did a year ago. They don't need College Game Day to come to campus. They don't need to be ranked in the top 25. Like, those things were, it was amazing last year. You and I talked about it a lot. I got to be there on a number of occasions to watch it. It was so much fun. They don't necessarily have to be there at that level this season, but what they do need to do is they need to continue to have the arrow pointed upwards, right? Like, that's the most important thing. And you know what? I think that a lot of that is subjective. A lot of that is based in a matter of opinion, if the arrow continues to be pointed upward or not. But I do think that there are some benchmarks that are going to be important for them. I think being in the middle of the pack in the Big 12 is going to be important for them. I think finishing at or above where they were projected in the preseason polls is going to be important for them, because I think that that's manageable. I think getting bowl eligible, as I mentioned before, with a couple of games to go in the season and not battling about whether or not they're going to make a bowl the last game of the season, that's going to be important for them. All of those things in my mind show that those benchmarks are being hit and that the momentum continues to be pointed upward for the program.
It'll be interesting to see, because we saw UCF look incredible last night against Kent State. So, like, as we're trying to guess early in the year, like, what if, can K-State replicate that against Missouri State? Because that's a team they'll face head-to-head, which is going to impact probably a lot of the things that you just said. So, I'm ready for it. I want to see him come out and just beat the doors off of. That's what I want to see tonight. Will we see that? To be fair, I don't know anything about Missouri State, so I don't. So it's hard, if they don't, it could be because Missouri State's good. But that's what I want to see tonight. We'll see how much Jalen Daniels plays. We'll, of course, have it all broken down for you coming up on Monday. All right, we've got giveaways coming in the next hour. We'll talk a little high school football, all kinds of stuff coming for you on this Friday edition of Sports Daily. We'll tell you some of our favorite bets of the weekend as we roll forward on a Friday edition. First Football Friday here. Man, we're pumped.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Sports Daily here on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you on this Friday edition, getting ready for fall football. Getting ready for KU tonight, for K-State tomorrow night, for high school football tonight. We'll bring in Catch Kansas executive producer Matt Henderson in our next segment to look ahead at some of the high school slate here. Tommy, as we look ahead to the rest of the football slate, we don't have NFL. I am, even though I am fully aware that it's more difficult and I was better at college football last year, the NFL is what I get really excited to bet. But we do have college football this weekend. And, I know there are a lot of people out there making some bets. I've certainly made a couple. There's all kinds of bonuses out there right now. I'm looking at, BetMGM, and there's odds boosts and, bonus bets and all kinds of stuff out there. I look at it, and this is sort of the time to go ahead. There are a couple that I like tomorrow. So let's just kind of look at some of our favorites of the weekend. I have from Jump Street liked LSU -2.5 against Florida State, Tommy. That's been one of my favorites for a while. I might be crazy there, but that one, are you with me there, or what are you thinking?
I'm okay with that. I don't have that one on my list as best bets of the weekend, but I certainly wouldn't talk you off that because I understand your rationale behind that.
Yeah, it's well, and two, it's just more about like Brian Kelly and his history. It's more about I just don't love Florida State. I don't necessarily trust Florida State. I don't know. I mean, that one I have been on the whole way through. Probably my favorite bet. I'm starting to warm up to, as we look back to the Big 12, Texas Tech at Wyoming. Tech's got just unreal expectations internally, and I think even a little bit externally. And they're 14-point favorites at Wyoming. I kind of like that too, taking Texas Tech, because
Really?
if you talk
Because
about
I like
that
Wyoming.
really,
Yeah, I like Wyoming to cover.
I just Tech's got so much to prove, so much to play for. If there's a team in week 1 that needs or wants to make a statement, I feel like they're as needy as any team. So I've got them. What else are you looking at here?
So let me tell you my favorite bet of the weekend that I've already put money on, and I may actually do a couple of other bets around this game, but my favorite bet of the entire weekend is probably the game that will have the most eyeballs on it tomorrow, and that's TCU Colorado. I'm taking TCU to cover. There's been so much hype around Coach Prime going to Colorado, but I just don't think that team is going to be very good. I mean, I think they might win a couple of games here and there, but because of all the hype around Dion, nobody's talking about if the team is going to be any good. And TCU was in a national championship last year. They are 20.5-point favorites. I think they win by more than 3 touchdowns. I'm going to take TCU to cover.
I'm a little nervous about that game. More not, a little bit because of Prime, but more because I really don't know what to expect out of TCU, right? That's the problem for me, is I don't know what to expect out of the Horned Frogs. Are they going to be able to replace all the talent that they lost quickly as they did last year? I'm just not sure. TCU is one of the big questions for me going into the season. I mean, last year showed us they could immediately be contenders, right? And they're going to have to do that again this year, but they did it, right? They've already done that. So I think it's definitely on the table. But that's one I'm a little nervous about, just because I don't know TCU. I kind of like Oregon State at San Jose State, and I don't like that I've taken road teams here. Oregon State is a 16.5-point favorite. Again, kind of approved something to me week 1. Don't you think Oregon State, who's expected to be really good this year, is just ready with all the drama and everything else to get out there and go pound on somebody? San Jose State played USC probably a little closer maybe than people thought, but it feels like a good opportunity to prove something for them too, for the Beavers, who, really, if they're as good as people think they might be, I think you're going to see the whole country rally behind them this year. That could be a really fun story, and I think they might get it off to a really nice start this weekend.
A couple of teams or a couple of games I'm looking at also, as far as the totals, the over under are concerned. After watching Caleb Williams and USC last week in week 0, I like the USC Nevada over. It's right at 66 right now. I'm going to take that. And then also in the Big Ten, Ohio State and Indiana, the over under is at 59. I think that is going to be over as well. So those are a couple of overs I'm looking at for tomorrow's games.
Okay. I mean, that's all I have now. I might get into more of it. I haven't really dug in. I dug in just briefly last night to try and, get an idea of what I might do this weekend. These early season games aren't as fun for me either. Chelsea brought something up yesterday that I thought was really interesting. Sharps will tell you that instead of trying to bet all of college football, really focus in. I did well inside the Big 12 last year. And that's probably what I'm going to try to do again this year, or find teams that you feel like you have a good feel for, right? And that's where, look, the most fruitful teams I bet all year last year were K-State and KU, because we're watching those games, right? And we know, like, when we're watching them, no matter who they're playing, it's like, hey, they're pretty good. Like, and so as they're, continuously undervalued out on the open market, it's like, yeah, you know what? They're not. They're better than they're getting credit for. So, well, that's something else I think to watch for this weekend too. First weeks are always tough, right? It's always tough to try, and especially in college football now with all the turnover and everything else, like, expectations are difficult to come up with at this point of the season.
One thing I will say too, I know we talk a little bit about BetMGM on this show. I don't know if this is the case for everybody. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a free bonus bet, at least in my BetMGM app right now, for college football. And I actually used it last night on the Utah-Florida game. So I would suggest people go and check that out, because that very well may be the case in your app as well. And I would imagine that as we're getting into the start of the regular season for both college football and NFL, we'll definitely be seeing a lot more promos and boosts and things like that on the BetMGM app.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I can't wait for the betting aspect of things. Everybody knows this. We enjoy it. We enjoy to have fun with it. We're not big bettors, but I like to bet lots of things, little amounts on lots of things, just to add a little spice. Again, if you missed, by the way, just speaking of college football and college everything, if you missed the top of the show, ACC is adding Stanford, Cal, and SMU. A lot of people are calling it now the All Coast Conference. It's been rumored North Carolina State flipped. I think that that's not a surprising outcome, as the three teams that are most likely to leave the conference are the teams that don't want to add other members now, which is funny, though, because it's going to add money, right, to their pool, too, just a little bit. So I don't know what they're so opposed to, but especially when you're leaving, like what a weird place to be. Florida State said as loud and proud as it can that it wants out. It wants to go somewhere else. And like they're holding up the league. Like what an awkward situation it must be in to be in a room full of whatever, where Florida State's sitting there and you're like, you don't even want to be here. Why don't you like abstain or something?
Yeah, I never really understood why, when you've got a program like Florida State who is so vocal about wanting to get out of that league, why they then would be resistant towards expansion, especially knowing that these schools are not getting full shares. And like in the case of SMU, not getting anything for a while. It's not like there's money coming out of your pocket at all. And even really, if they were getting full shares, it's just the network paying more. It's not like the schools are losing any money. So I didn't really understand the resistance from Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and even NC State in resisting this expansion, especially considering they're on their way out the door. So that never made really any sense to me. But I would imagine that now that this has gone through, and with Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina all voting no, I mean, that's, I think, ultimately going to help fast track those three programs out of the ACC.
Yeah, it's because I think they're all going to make a little bit more money with these guys coming in, but especially with SMU willing to not take any, and what we've heard that Cal and Stanford might come in and take less. So, but it's just awkward because those teams are gone, right? Like they're leaving, assuming one of the other leagues wants them. I think Clemson and North Carolina would be clear wants. Florida State's not as clear, but they wouldn't be this loud and obnoxious if they didn't know something, although San Diego State was. So who knows? Who knows? They may be overinflating their own value on the market. But anyway, it's going to happen. And that is the domino. Now we see if, the rumor yesterday, the AAC interested in, Oregon State and Washington State could have any validity, which what a great move that would be for the AAC and a cool thing. But, that's out there, everybody. It's all out there for us. It's all coming together, I guess. We're seeing what's going to happen. Was the Pac-12 survive in any way? No, they're not going to survive. They're done. The Pac-12.
What's really interesting about all of this is that you've got the 12 schools that were part of the Pac-12 where there wasn't value with all of them together to have a media deal. But now you've got this perceived individual value for even schools like Stanford and Cal. I'm sure that Oregon State and Washington State, the dust is going to settle with them too, whether that's the American or somewhere else. But you've got all this value now with the individual pieces of the conference. You didn't have any value at all with them overall as a group together. So I think it just shows you that the overall valuation of what the Pac-12 thought that they're more valuable as, basically parts of the conference than the sum of all the parts.
Yeah. They misplayed their hand, clearly. And, attendance and that stuff matters. And you just go look at those numbers. It's not as much of the livelihood as it is for other regions of the country. And maybe this is a better fit for everybody as the dust settles here. It's just, history, it's hard to let go of that stuff. But look, there's no reason to look back now. It's going to keep happening. It's going to happen at least one more time. But that's the latest move is coming to fruition. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Let's talk some high school football. It is week 1 of the high school football season. We did have a couple of games last night across the state. We'll have the full slate tonight. We're going to talk about some of the biggest matchups. Executive producer of catchitkansas.com, Matt Henderson, coming up as Sports Daily rolls forward here on a Friday.
Daily is on KFH.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. It's Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor on a Friday, the first Friday of high school football. We had a little bit last night, a little City League action, and some other smaller schools. Capon, impressive in their opener as they look to contend for a state title. But the full slate comes tonight. We're happy to welcome in again this year executive producer of CatchKansas.com, Matt Henderson. Hendo, what's up? Happy Friday. Happy football season.
Man, best day of the year, opening Friday, right?
It is. It's going to be, that opening week where it's like 100 degrees at kickoff. And, the big one that, look, everybody's looking at this one. No surprise. We'll be out there at 12 News live all day. It'll be a featured game tonight on Catch a Kansas. Everything else, it's the massive rivalry that just sort of starts seasons now. When you talk about Bishop Carroll and Wichita Northwest, it has developed into one of our favorite rivalries. And, this year, I think, Endo, correct me if I'm wrong, these are two teams with, the highest aspirations you could have.
Oh, absolutely. And that's year in, year out. I mean, we love this game every year. It seems like every year this one opens the schedule out for us. Carroll and Northwest and Catch Kansas this year, we have Wichita Northwest as our number one team entering in 6A. And that's a new thing for us. Like the Northwest are back in 6A for a second year. Carroll's still in 5A, but we have them right behind Mill Valley. Mill Valley's won 4 titles in a row, so it's hard to kind of knock them from the throne until we see them lose. So, yeah, this matchup is going to be a lot of fun. Northwest, that team is loaded top to bottom. They have a few standout sophomores, a few standout seniors to watch this year. Carroll, Jackson King back at quarterback, getting the reins in full this year. Remember last year's game, he didn't start, came in at halftime, and they were down, 25 points, and he leads them on a comeback, and they win that shootout 53-41. So he's back. He's got a great offensive line in front of him. Hank Purvis leading the way there. So it's going to be a great matchup between the two rivals.
Does it seem like to you, Hendo, that with the loss of, some big time standout players from last season, like Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards and others on various teams around the metro area, that things are a little bit more wide open this season than they were a year ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the beauty of it. It's like we'll have that, and it's hard. It's so hard preseason to predict. This year was about as hard as as far as the research that I've been doing is to really get be able to gauge, because those seniors that we lost last year were just that good, and so maybe that creates a little more parity this year. Maybe a little more unexpected things that'll happen, and that may make it just that much more fun for all of us.
I want to talk about Wichita East for a second. They're a team that I've heard you guys sort of place some good expectations around the office on them. How big a test is Washburn Rural? I don't know anything about Washburn Rural. Is this going to be an opportunity for us to see, how real Wichita East might be able to play their way in this year?
So this one honestly could be exactly what we saw last year. I mean, last year's game, Rural won 49-42. Wichita East, their offense this year, 10 of their 11 starters are back. They're Deontay Mitchell at quarterback, a 4-year starter. They have 4 very good receivers, Rayville Leak at running back. So they're going to be scoring a lot of points. It's just a matter of, can they stop some people? Last year, Rural dropped 49 on them. East is returning 4 starters on defense. So they will have, right out the gate, they're going to be tested. And this game honestly kind of feels like one where it's the last team that scores is the one that's going to win. And both teams may hang 50+.
Speaking of Wichita East, Hendo, they play next week against Capon, who, as we mentioned a couple minutes ago, had a pretty dominant victory against South. And of course, South is not going to be, a player in the City League at all, but Capon was able to beat them 72-14 last night. Overall, as you're looking at, one game in the books for Capon and what their expectations are for this season under Weston Schartz, what are you looking at as far as Capon is concerned in the City League?
Capon, I think you have to look at like a bounce back year. I mean, let's say by their standards, especially with under Coach Weston Schartz, who's one of the City League legend. Last year, a bit of a disappointment after the great year they had in 2021. East, I mean, that kind of surprised a lot of us in the area last year when East went out and beat Capon in week 2 then. But this year, this Capon team, I mean, they have a lot of guys back. Amari Elias is as good of a running back as you'll see at the high school level. He's also going to Air Force. So I think that's one thing. Like, we saw 72 points. I mean, they look at competition however you want to with that. Like, that is a lot of points to hang, especially in a season opener. So if Capon's going to be doing things like that this year, they're going to be a team that will absolutely be a contender on the 5A West.
Let's go. Let's stick in 6A is interesting. I think this year's it has been Derby Manhattan. Derby gets to hit the road for that one this year. Derby is interesting. They got a lot of question marks, probably more than they've had, I don't know, in the last 5 or 6 years. And they get that road test, and that's a game you'd think they'd had circled on the schedule for a while now.
I mean, Derby loses 3 games last year. 2 of them are to Manhattan. One in the season opener, one in the playoffs that ends their season short of going to the state championship game. They went 8 straight years. So, yeah, you would say I would say that they are excited to get this game out of the way, first game of the year, really go out there, potentially make a statement. Manhattan did lose a lot this year. That senior year that they had last year was phenomenal, led by Keenan Sharts at quarterback. Derby this year, I mean, we're going to have a new starting quarterback, Braxton Clark, who has experience. I mean, Coach Brandon Clark's son getting the nod his senior year. Derek Hubbard's expected to jump right in and take over for Dylan Edwards at running back. He got some valuable time last year behind the now Colorado Buffalo. And then also Deshaun Brain, who's the guy who we've seen blow up, especially on social media this year. We're getting Power 5 offer after offer. But he's so unproven. He's been injured, so we haven't really seen him do a whole lot offensively. So he's like could be an X factor for that team moving forward to see just how good they are.
I mentioned Avery Johnson a few minutes ago. The era of Avery Johnson at Mays is officially done. Of course, Mays has played in back-to-back state championship games with losses against Mill Valley in both of those years. What are you expecting now from Mays, considering they don't have Avery Johnson? They also lost a couple of other big-time players for that program. Is this potentially going to be a down year for the Eagles, or do they have enough firepower to be able to reload?
I don't want to call it a down year yet. They are a major question mark because they did lose that much. I mean, beyond Avery, losing guys like Justin Stevens, like Bryce Cahoon, Deshaun Carter. So they return a great receiver in Bryson Hayes, who's going to be going to Power 5 for sure. He's entering his junior year. He really I believe he's 4.3 speed. So he's a great receiver. The new quarterback, Drew Kemp, got some limited playing time last year behind Avery in mop-up time. So he has experience playing with these guys. I think, but beyond that, I mean, they have Aiden Flores back to lead the defense, but they lose a lot of their top tacklers from a year ago. It'll be interesting. They open up with Topeka tonight. That should be a game they're expected to win, but beyond that, just definitely a team to keep an eye out to see just how they can respond to losing that good of a senior class.
So we had a countdown to kickoff tour as a part of 12 News. You can go back and look at all those stops that have been made really all month long. I wonder, Matt Henderson joining us, executive producer of Catch It Kansas, like what surprised you, do you think? Like, is there anybody that opened your eyes a little bit, or anybody that, in the last 2 or 3 weeks you've really sort of like turned on to as far as a team that might be better than we suspected coming into the summer?
I would say honestly, and this feels like it might be a cop out, but can I just go back to the game last night, Garden Plain? Like Conway Springs, we had high expectations for this year. They had such a great end of the year last year, and then Garden Plain, kind of an unknown team, had 2 sophomore running backs both go over 100 yards last night, and they were able to really lock down Braden Coons, who's one of the state's top rushers, ran over 2,200 yards last year. So the Owls this year, I mean, they were unranked in our polls this year, entering the year, but a great statement win for them. They're going to be a team that we can really keep an eye out on in Class 2A.
How about Andover Central, Hendo? They're a squad that had a couple of years of a lot of success, a little bit down last year, finishing the year at 7-4. Do you think that as we're looking at Class 4A, I mean, we know how Bishop Miege just rolls over, a lot of those teams around the state in 4A, but is Andover Central a team that can bounce back this year and get a little bit further into the playoffs than they did a year ago?
Andover Central is about as consistent as you go. I mean, they still made it to the state quarterfinals last year. Opening the night with Bueller. Bueller's another team that we're looking at, as hopeful for a bounce back year. But this Central team, I think I could kind of speak to them similarly to Mays, is like we have a lot of unknowns on this team. And like you mentioned, Class 4A, just so hard to compete in, especially if you're a West Side team. I mean, people that declare public school champions as jokingly, however you want to look at that, then McPherson,
yeah,
teams like that are always right there. So the Central team, I think this game tonight could be a good, like a measuring stick for them, because we kind of get a general idea of just how this team will compete this year.
All right, last one I want to ask you about individually here, Hendo. Is this the year Andale loses a game? Like, is the streak going to stay alive all year, you think? I know we always know they have to reload, but here we go again.
No. Teeny, Wichita Collegiate, they're both going to be very good the teams this year.
Yep.
I've never would bet against Andale, and that's just how this works. I mean, Dylan Schmidt is just that good of a coach. He's never lost in the regular season. Sure, they say they have to rebuild because they lose a lot. That senior class, never losing a game. I mean, it's such a remarkable stat to talk about with them. But the thing with Andale is they had so many blowouts last year that all of these backups, the underclassmen, they got valuable playing time. They're not brand new to playing varsity football. So they're going to come in here and they're going to be the starters. They have some guys back that can still lead the team, like Gage Prosser. But, I mean, you just don't bet against Andale. That's really just as simple as it goes.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty safe prediction there with Andale. All right, so coming up tonight, you'll see TJ Cleland's live reports for 12 News all day long out at the Bishop Carroll Northwest game. We'll get you into games beginning at 9 o'clock tonight on the KSCW, at 10 o'clock on KWCH inside the newscast there. That's sort of an appetizer for the main course, which is the Catch It Kansas show. First edition live with games since the summer, really, 10:35 over on the KSCW. And, of course, everything available for you at catchitkansas.com and on the free Catch It Kansas app. Hendo, rest up. Here we go. Week one. We're there.
Exciting times. Thanks, guys.
There goes Matt Henderson, executive producer of catchitkansas.com. Let's give away some Win Surge vouchers here on the way out. These vouchers will be good for any of the few remaining home games you have. We'll hook you up, courtesy of us here at Sports Daily and KFH, to our first caller on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Tommy and I'll be back with more on a Friday edition next.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Are you hungry for the taste of Philly? Then you need a Spangles Sourdough Philly cheesesteak.
The Spangles Sourdough Philly cheesesteak. Spiced just right. Sliced thin, hot off the grill steak. And those fresh, sauteed, sweet red onions and green pepper slices. Then we'll add melted Swiss cheese. All on Spangles' own recipe. Fresh baked, butter toasted sourdough bread.
The Spangles Sourdough Philly cheesesteak.
Spangles, it just tastes better.
Would you like to earn up to $60,000 a year as a general manager and have advancement opportunities earning up to $100,000 as an area supervisor? Then Kansas owned and operated Spangles is the place for you. So if you have previous experience and want to earn great pay, bonuses, benefits, and the opportunity for advancement, stop by Annie Spangles or go online at spanglesinc.com. That's spanglesinc.com.
Come join our team.
In a wreck, need a check? I'm attorney Tyler Patterson, and you only need to make one call, that's all. If you've been injured, we can help you get the compensation you deserve. We were just voted the best law firm in Wichita, and we've recovered hundreds of millions of dollars for thousands of Kansans just like you. Call Patterson Legal Group today for a free consult.
Patterson Legal is the way to go.
Are you a talented individual looking for an exciting opportunity? Superior Plumbing, a leading name in the plumbing industry, is now hiring. If you're a skilled plumber with experience or a fresh apprentice eager to learn, Superior Plumbing wants you to join our team. We offer competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a supportive work environment. Call 684-8349 today.
Superior Plumbing will come running because we care, treat you fair and square. And our name says it all, Superior.
Ready Overhead Doors, Wichita's home for LiftMaster garage door products. If you haven't upgraded your garage door opener in the last 10 years, you're missing out on modern features that add convenience and security. Ready's LiftMaster smart openers offer ultra-quiet belt drives, battery backups, 360-degree LED lighting, built-in security cameras, automatic locks, and more. LiftMaster's MyQ openers allow you to control your door with your smartphone. Open your door from anywhere and get real-time notifications when the door is activated. If it's time for a garage door upgrade, don't worry, call Ready.
Call 491-5111, call Ready.
Ready Overhead Door installs automatic sunshades and retractable awnings for homes and businesses. Reduce energy expenses and improve comfort in hot rooms, decks, and patios. Call to schedule a free estimate today.
491-5111, call Ready. Call Ready.
Electrical problems can be shocking. Call the experts at Mr. Electric and experience unmatched professionalism from start to finish. Call ahead scheduling. No surprises with upfront pricing. Complimentary safety check with every appointment and 24/7 emergency electrical service. The Mr. Electric expert staff is focused on your safety with a job done right every time. Residential or commercial, Mr. Electric has the power to make things better. Call now, 316-361-5200. Online at MrElectricWichita.com.
Come and enjoy a free birthday boil at Hook and Reel. Valid only with a minimum of a 2-entree purchase, proof of ID, and also valid 3 days before and 3 days after birthday. Located in Town East Parking Lot, East Kellogg.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cup. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY. Enjoy.
Just like your favorite team, we are in it to win it.
Ball driven deep left. Take a good look. You won't see it for long.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
The most listened to sports radio in Wichita is 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
It's time to get back to the sports talk.
All right, let's do this thing. Go.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Congratulations to Tom for winning those Wind Surge tickets. Tommy, conference realignment, we mentioned the schools to the AAC, Brett McMurphy reporting, or sorry, to the ACC, Brett McMurphy reporting last half hour that the AAC commissioner, Mike Resco, says the league is now not looking at an option of adding Oregon State and Washington State. Florida State's president on the expansion said, we appreciate the efforts of Commissioner Phillips and our conference partners. There are many complicated factors that led us to vote no. That said, we welcome these truly outstanding institutions and look forward to working with them as our new partners in the ACC. The complication is you're trying to leave. I don't know now with Cal and Stanford out, what happens with Oregon State and Washington State. McMurphy says, he's sort of joking and emphasizing the options are to join the Mountain West. The other thing they could do is the Pac-2 now is try to go poach the AAC and the Mountain West. But at this point, what are you going to do? Like unless you can get an outright merger, that's not going to be attractive to a network. So you just kind of have to join one.
Well, and if Oresco and the American are not looking at pursuing Oregon State and Washington State, then that would tell me that they feel fairly confident that Oregon State and Washington State can't come in and poach them. Like I think that's kind of reading between the lines a little bit there. I don't think that Oregon State and Washington State, and I guess that means still George Kliavkoff is still the commissioner, I think, of that conference. Like, I don't think there's no power at all. They've got no move. Like, there's nothing that they can do other than just decide. Those two institutions decide that they're out as well, make it a pack 0, dissolve the conference and go join the Mountain West. I think that's basically at this point all that they can do. They've got no legs to stand on to be able to go and try to poach anybody at this point. In fact, I don't even think they could go to the Mountain West and try to steal schools away. I think that they're in a position to where they would have to join a conference like the Mountain West. That's probably what we're going to end up seeing.
The challenge here to me now becomes, like, if the AAC all of a sudden doesn't want them, if they're not going to increase the value in television, if you're the AAC, I assume the same could be said for the Mountain West. What value do they have here? I mean, it's this weird like dynamic, because certainly Oregon State and Washington State have as much or more value than, any team in the Mountain West, you would think. But is it enough to move the needle enough to mess with things? And that's where it's like, I mean, surely they're going to find a home somewhere.
But they got to go
right?
somewhere. I mean, and it's not going to be the ACC. Otherwise, there would have been conversations about that alongside Stanford and Cal and SMU, I believe, because I think that there could have been potentially an offer where the ACC could have said, okay, Oregon State, okay, Washington State, you can join the conference, but it's going to have to be kind of like SMU. You're not going to make any money for a number of years. I don't know if that offer was even on the table or not. Regardless, it's not happening. And I think it would have happened alongside this other move that was announced today. They're not Big 10 caliber. They're not Big 12 caliber probably right now. The American doesn't want them. It's got to be the Mountain West. They've got to go somewhere. Those two institutions are not going to play independent. I don't think they've got the resources to be able to do that. Like, they've got to have a conference around them. I think it's got to be the Mountain West.
We're assuming that it makes the Mountain West better. And that's if the AAC doesn't want them. I don't know how to read that. I don't know if they didn't enhance the AAC's financial brand, are they going to do that for the Mountain West?
I mean, what does it tell you about those two institutions if the American, who, by the way, let's not forget, lost SMU today, like they're down another program in that conference, decided to walk away from pursuing Oregon State and Washington State, even though they've lost SMU today?
That's what I mean. Like, I saw that yesterday and I was like, oh, that would be really cool. Gets them out west, gets them two of the bigger and more high profile universities that they would have in the league. But if they're sitting there saying, yeah, no, that's not really an option, to me, that tells me, because Oresco went to his TV partners and his TV partners are like, no, we don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no. Well, who can you do it for then? I mean, I hope at this point that they can just get into the Mountain West, I guess. Like, I still wish we would get some sort of like combination of those two schools, the Mountain West and the AAC. I think that would be like the safest path. But then, like, for us sitting here, like, what would that mean for Wichita State? I don't know what I'd hoped in all of this that there wouldn't be casualties, and it looks like Washington State and Oregon State are almost certainly going to be casualties. And as much as that sucks, and as much as we hate that, there have also been teams that have elevated their brand too. So it has gone both ways, right? So, like, for as bad as you feel for them, you got to still feel good for SMU and Houston and Cincinnati and Central Florida and BYU and all these teams that have now elevated up to that level. You do feel good for them too. So it's not all bad, but man, it's going to be unfortunate when ultimately it sure looks like, it looks like Oregon State and Washington State are going to fall out of Power 5 status here.
That is absolutely collateral damage in all of this. And it is unfortunate because Oregon State and Washington State didn't ask for this, right? I mean, this was not something that they desired to have happen. I don't know the opinions of their administrations respectively throughout the entire negotiations, but part of the issue was, those two schools alongside all the other ones that were part of the Pac-12 hitching their wagon to the star of George Kliavkoff and overvaluing the value of their institutions and the conference as a whole. And when that happened and the networks were like, nope, there's no way that we're going to do 50 million per school. Like, that's just not going to happen. And then they couldn't solidify anything else. Then you start to see all these other schools leaving. And the bottom line is that you can be in a conference and you can have, you can make strategic decisions that are best for the conference and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, every single school is out for themselves, right? They're out for their bottom line. They're out for the revenue that they're going to be generating. That's what they're doing. Like, it's all about self-preservation. And unfortunately for Washington State and Oregon State and all of this, if they end up getting left behind and they lose Power 5 status after this season, I mean, that's a shame. But at the end of the day, while I do feel bad for them now as, basically being left behind, those two schools have got to be aggressive and be in the mindset of, we have to save ourselves. Screw the conference, screw anything else. We've just got to take care of our own.
Just go be the best team in the Mountain West. I mean, that's the thing. Like, go there and hope that you can dominate that league. Plenty of good football is played in that league. Plenty of players get into the NFL from that league. Make the best of the situation. It won't be as good financially. Just won't be. That part will be devastating. That will be devastating. All right, before we give away some Pentatonics tickets coming out of this break, let's talk about this story. Travis Kelce put out his podcast with his brother, basically on the podcast, pleading with Chris Jones to come back and rejoin the Chiefs. Couple of quotes from you. He's the best defensive player in the league right now. He's deserving of all the money in the world. Chris, I love you. Please come back now. And then a little later, Chris, can you please come back? You're really scaring me, Kelce said. I don't get it. You must know something that I don't, because I just don't get it. I really want to get another Super Bowl ring with you, brother. This is me bargaining you just to come back and play football for the Chiefs. Please, we need you. We need you bad. Kelce's taking a team-friendly deal. Chris Jones clearly not willing to do that, but Kelce now, like, I do think, and while that's a fun podcast, and his brother Jason, who hosts it with him, is like, I hope Chris Jones holds out until after week 11 when we play you guys, like, because he plays right against him, right? Kelce and Chris Jones play against each other.
Yeah.
I think it does give us just a little bit more insight, Tommy, and like, this is surprising to the Chiefs locker room, and it is, it is having an impact. We've heard coaches, Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, you can tell like they're not thrilled about it. And now you're seeing this, and it's like, I think this is surprising a lot of people. It surprised us in the beginning, and now I think it's even surprising his teammates.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to the point now where I've been thinking a lot about, number one, how this impacts the locker room. And I mentioned this, I think, a couple of weeks ago in one of our mini conversations about the holdout, that, eventually the Chiefs, I think, have to make a pretty strong statement or decision or something. And I'm still not at the point where I'm advocating trading him, but when you get to the point to where it starts to impact the locker room in season, that's where it can start to be a detriment to the team. And we're getting close to that point, I think. And I don't know how long this holdout is going to go. Hopefully he's back and ready to go for week number 1. I mean, I think that's unlikely, but it's going to start to get into that territory. On top of that, I've also begun to think about how this entire situation, regardless of the ending, impacts Chris Jones's legacy with the fan base long term. Like, is this something where, let's just say he never plays another game for the Kansas City Chiefs, or he does, but it's, clearly contentious and he's on his way out of town. Does this damage the long-term reputation that the fan base will have looking back on Chris Jones, or the fact that he's been a part of 2 Super Bowl wins? Does that negate everything? So I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that at this point right now. But certainly it's continuing to drag on. It's continuing to be something that, despite what Brett Veach says as far as him being hopeful. Clearly it's not making a lot of traction right now. And it was a little bit shocking to hear those words from Travis Kelce. The fact that, saying things like, "You're scaring me." Like, clearly this is something that is impacting the players in that locker room.
As far as the fans, I don't think it will have any impact on the legacy he leaves there. I mean, do you think any less of Tony Gonzalez? Do you think any less of Justin Houston? Do you think any less of Tyreek Hill? I don't think so.
Those weren't long-term contentious holdouts, like, about new contracts. Like that wasn't
Tyreek Hill was going to be,
but it wasn't. I mean, they made a decisive statement and moved Tyreek Hill out. And I do think that when you look back long-term on the career of Tyreek Hill, you're not going to be able to view him as just a Chief, right? Like a Chiefs legend. Like he'll be an NFL legend.
Well,
right?
I think he could be a Chiefs legend with sharing it.
Justin Houston left the team, in I think free agency, and that was kind of the way that went. Tony Gonzalez did the same thing, but it wasn't like there was contentious contract negotiations, at least if memory serves, with either one of those guys. So I wonder if we get into the point to where this becomes a legitimate in-season team distraction and it continues to be hotly contested and arguing and disagreements and all of this, and like there's no end in sight, does that end up damaging the legacy? And I think it might.
Perhaps. Tony Gonzalez is probably a good example, except that he didn't have Super Bowls, obviously. He went and played 5 more, productive years in the NFL. But I don't think I think people are still, grateful and thinking of him that way. I don't think there's any danger of people not fondly remembering.
But I think
Chris Jones.
Tony Gonzalez left an organization that, I think that they were kind of up and down during his tenure with Kansas City. And, there were several years where he was the only offensive weapon that team had and the most recognizable guy, but he left when that team, they were not perennial Super Bowl contenders, right? And this is a situation with Chris Jones where you've got a majority of the pieces to make another run at a Super Bowl and go back to back. And that's what makes this different than the Tony Gonzalez situation.
But I guess so. But do you think fans expect players to take team-friendly deals or discounts? Because that's really what it's going to come down to.
No, I don't think. I mean, again, if the Chiefs were looking at lowballing Chris Jones, I think it would be a different situation. I don't think anybody, and we don't know what that actual number is because the Chiefs have been very, very quiet about that, probably for good reason. But I would have a hard time thinking that the Chiefs are trying to lowball Chris Jones. I think that Chris Jones thinks that he's worth more than what the Chiefs are offering him, but I'm not sure that constitutes a lowball. So that's where I think you've got to keep it in context, where it's not like the Chiefs, in my mind right now.
Do you think Travis Kelce knows, though, more about what the Chiefs offer is? Like, do you think they talk about that stuff? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, probably. I don't know, but, I would think.
But like if Travis Kelce knows what the Chiefs are offering and then comes and says, "You're scaring me," I'm surprised by this. That's one thing. If he doesn't know, then he's just guessing, right? But if he does, like if Chris Jones talks to these guys and is like, "Guys, they're just not," because if I was Chris Jones and everybody was dependent on this, and it was like, I'd probably be having pretty honest conversations with Kelce and Mahomes that, like, guys, they're trying to do this to me, and I don't get the sense from what Travis Kelce's saying that, like, he feels like that Chris Jones is getting screwed on an offer here.
No,
right? Like,
because I didn't hear that either in his quotes. It wasn't like, man, I wish the organization would be a little bit more giving towards him. Like that's not been the case in that podcast. Like, that was not his quote. It was basically, "You're scaring me. Do you know something that I don't?" Kind of situation, which leads me to believe that all along, Travis Kelce and probably others, Patrick Mahomes and others, have thought all along that the Chiefs are giving Chris Jones a fair market value. That's kind of been the narrative all along in this entire situation, that they're giving him what they feel like is a fair market valuation of his services. And at least the way in my mind it's been framed so far is that Chris Jones wants substantially more than what the fair market value, quote unquote, is for his position and what he does.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I think I know what the fair market value is. I don't know if Chris Jones feels like that's the same. And that's probably the thing. All right. You hear that music?
There's a chill in here.
I got a cold this week, Tommy, like it would be the middle of the winter. So it's hitting extra hard for me. So Pentatonics, that's what that is. They're bringing their holiday tour to Intrust Bank Arena. It's called the Most Wonderful Tour of the Year. That's on December 19th. Tickets are on sale right now. You can win a pair, though, on us here at Sports Daily. We'll give you a pair. Third caller as we take our final break on the program. It's Albracht and Castor. Good luck on the contest. We'll get you a winner and tell you what's coming up on tap this weekend next on Sports Daily.
Where your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bailing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to the kitchen chair.
Come and enjoy a free birthday boil at Hook and Reel. Valid only with minimum of a 2-entree purchase, proof of ID, and also valid 3 days before and 3 days after birthday. Located in Town East Parking Lot, East Kellogg.
Innovation Refunds does not provide tax or legal advice. We work with an independent network of tax professionals and will share information with them to evaluate and process your claims. Terms and conditions apply. Ty is a paid spokesman.
I'm Ty Burrell, actor and small business owner. You can trust Innovation Refunds with your small business's ERC claim because of their SOC 2 Type 1 security compliance. And if you're a tech person, you know that's a big deal. I'm not a tech person, but I did look it up. Without this certification, how can you be sure a company can protect your information? It's not like here on the radio, where all you need to be secure is a sensor button. Check it out. So now you won't know my date of birth is or that my social security number is. The password to my bank account is Ty's Cool Password 1. Uh-oh. The button's broken. Luckily, Innovation Refunds is more reliable. Don't wait. Go to innovationrefunds.com. That's innovationrefunds.com or call 1-843-REFUNDS to get started. Oh, a notification from my bank. Wait, I didn't buy a boat.
Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. FanDuel, the app is easy to use and you can be on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Lutz and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. NFL Sunday Ticket offer in September 18th, 2023. No refunds. Terms and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use excluded. Subscription renews. Cancel anytime.
Ready Overhead Doors, Wichita's home for LiftMaster garage door products. If you haven't upgraded your garage door opener in the last 10 years, you're missing out on modern features that add convenience and security. Ready's LiftMaster smart openers offer ultra-quiet belt drives, battery backups, 360-degree LED lighting, built-in security cameras, automatic locks, and more. LiftMaster's MyQ openers allow you to control your door with your smartphone. Open your door from anywhere and get real-time notifications when the door is activated. If it's time for a garage door upgrade, don't worry, call Ready.
Call 491-5111, call Ready.
Ready Overhead Door installs automatic sunshades and retractable awnings for homes and businesses. Reduce energy expenses and improve comfort in hot rooms, decks, and patios. Call to schedule a free estimate today.
That's 491-5111, call Ready. Call Ready.
Toppers Plus Truck Accessories has moved to a new location at 333 Northwest Street. Whether you're working or playing, Toppers Plus will get your truck ready with Rhino linings. Nothing beats a Rhino, the leader in sprayed-on truck bed liners that outperforms plastic drop-in rubber mats and paint-like coatings. They won't crack, peel, or warp and include a lifetime warranty. Toppers Plus, your Rhino dealer. Visit our new location at 333 Northwest Street or toppersplusks.com.
Make a truck work for you! The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
College football. Hey, the season is here. Tomorrow night in Manhattan, it's 16th ranked Kansas State hosting Southeast Missouri. It's the highest preseason ranking for the Wildcats in 19 years. K-State, a 24.5-point favorite or thereabouts going into this game tomorrow night. And, of course, Kansas State's new radio home in Wichita is right here, KFH. Pre-game show for K-State football at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. The game will kick off at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening in Manhattan. K-State football right here on 97.5 and 1240 KFH. College football action last night getting the season underway. Third-ranked Pittsburgh State, the Gorillas win at home, beat Washburn 34-7. Big win over the Ichabods. Pittsburgh State outscored Washburn 21-0 in the fourth quarter. Fort Hays State won its season opener on the road last night, 56-0 at Northeastern State. I'm Ted, the Sports Head.
The unrivaled leader in sports audio, reaching 2 times more people than its leading competitor, Odyssey and KFH Radio.
Maggie and Perloff, only on CBS Sports Radio.
I think the whole industry and everybody who says that they're good at tasting wine is lying.
It's all perpetrated by big wine.
In the history of mankind, there's no bigger lie than people can tell which wine is good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I love people who are like, I'm just tasting and spitting out, and like, I'm not here to get loaded. Get out of here.
Wineries are the scenes of so many crimes. People get sloppy at wineries, like dress over your head type stuff.
Maggie and Perloff, weekdays at 4 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We got a busy weekend coming for you. The Royals and the Red Sox at 7 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, our first K-State game here on KFH, the new partner of Wildcat Athletics. Excited about that. Pre-game coverage begins at 4, and then you'll have kickoff at 6 over on KNSS at 6:30. We get Butler football. And then back to baseball on Sunday. It'll be 1 o'clock with the Royals. I am tentatively scheduled to be on CBS Sports Radio tomorrow from 11 to 4. I'm going to have to see how my voice holds up. So we'll see on that. Maybe you'll hear me tomorrow on the national network. We'll find out here by the end of the day. But thanks, everybody. Tommy, it's real football week next week. Let's get a little appetizer this weekend.
I'm so excited. I'm going to be parking in front of the TV this weekend watching college football. I can't wait.
Sports, lighter news, and great comedy with Bob and Tom mornings, 97.5 and 1240.